I'm co-founder and CEO of Finless Foods. We're now just about 4.5 years old. We're the world's first cell-cultured seafood company that's recently broadened our portfolio to be not just cell-cultured, but also plant-based. So we're an alternative proteins company now. I wanted to make sure to start this presentation off with a picture of our tuna made in our on-land facility in Emeryville, California. So it's never seen the ocean. I know at this type of conference, people really want to see pictures of the real deal. So I wanted to start off with it before launching into who we are and what we do even. So Finless, like I mentioned, is an alternative proteins company. We're currently focused on R&D of cell-cultured and plant-based seafood. And recently we've begun commercializing both of them, moving through the commercialization process. We aim to produce seafood that is ethical and sustainable, but that competes on market metrics by being the best tasting, the freshest, the most affordable, and the healthiest option. We believe there's lots of ethical and sustainable food out there, but not a lot that competes on market metrics. If ethical and sustainable food can't compete on the metrics of price, taste, nutrition, and availability, it's not going to reach the mainstream market that in general doesn't make its purchasing decisions based on ethics. So Finless's immediate work is twofold. We're scaling up our plant-based product, which we'll be bringing to market in early 2022, like Ahmed mentioned. And we're also constructing the world's first pilot facility for producing cell-cultured tuna. This facility will be focused first on bluefin tuna specifically, but it's agnostic and can expand to other species fairly quickly. We'll be fully moved into that pilot facility in November. Our cell-cultured products, we aim to move to market in the US as soon as we have regulatory approval. We're also looking into and pursuing approval in a few other countries, but since we're here and it's a pretty good big market, we're excited to move to the US first. We'll follow this with a variety of other seafood products, both in the tuna family and outside of it. So why care about cell-cultured seafood? I know it's like not the main topic of like an alternative proteins conference. A lot of this focuses on pork, beef, chicken, etc. Well, this graph from the FAO shows the state of our global fisheries from 1974, when this data sort of started being collected, through 2017. We're at the point where every single year globally, humanity takes every fish out of the ocean that the ocean has to offer. And so if demand keeps going up, we're going to need other solutions. And demand is indeed going up. On this graph, you can see on the left, there's that dark blue line. That is wild caught. Wild caught catch. It's been leveled off for decades because there isn't really any way to increase wild caught seafood production. We catch every fish out of the ocean that we can every year. The light blue line underneath it represents aquaculture, fish farming. This has been steadily increasing, but is now leveling off due to a few issues. One of the principal ones is around usable ocean space. Fish farming does require a specific set of like temperature, salinity, pH, distance from shore in order to get a workforce out to the farm. And we're running out of spaces that are viable for that. That on top of like beach conservation measures, which obviously are a really good thing, makes it pretty difficult to find new space to put more fish farms in. So, you know, these issues don't seem like they'll get a real resolution in the near future. Basically, fish farming isn't viable also for a bunch of important species like tuna. I mean, tuna on its own is a $42 billion market globally that's constrained by limited supply from the ocean. There's still no tuna farms that are economically viable at scale. And this also is due to a bunch of issues that like don't seem like they're going to get resolution in the near future. Basically, you know, the takeaway from all of this that I'd like you to have is that our fisheries are nearing their breaking point and demand is continuing to rise. So if we want to keep our ocean healthy while increasing the global seafood supply, we're going to need solutions like cell-cultured and plant-based seafood. So that's in part why we founded Finless. Finless has unique IP that allows us to create a wide variety of seafood, from expensive bluefin sashimi to cheap whitefish, with no mercury, no plastic, no antibiotics, no ocean ecosystem destruction, and no animal cruelty. And we can do all of this with this technology for an affordable price. So pictured here is some delicious flatbread topped with our production line plant-based tuna that we're going to be moving to market in early 2022. If you'd like to see more pictures of that, you can check our website, finlessfoods.com, and see more pictures of the upcoming launch of the plant-based stuff. But, you know, I think a lot of people here are more curious about cell culture, so I'll mostly stick to talking about that. How efficient is cell-cultured seafood? Well, this is actually a slide that I don't use at every conference, but I really do like to use at more technical conferences, and I especially like to use it at conferences that center around fish farming and seafood production. Here are assumptions and projections comparing one salmon mariculture net with two scaled up bioreactors a Korean pharma company has running today for vaccine production. We aren't yet able to achieve these densities or efficiencies in the bioreactor, but there is a lot of literature out there showing that this is very achievable within the next few years. And we've recently achieved a few breakthroughs, including a 70xing of our cellular proliferation density that puts us well on the path to doing so. So basically, you can see in the bolded text on the third line, both of these like chunks of text on the sides, that harnessing cellular agriculture in a space 10 times smaller than a fish farm in the middle of a population center like a city, you can produce almost double the amount of fish that one could in a typical fish farm. And this is comparing to a very high efficiency fish farm. This is comparing itself to salmon mariculture, which is one of the most like tightly controlled, well understood fish farming systems on the planet. It's extremely efficient. So basically being able to produce about double the amount of tuna in 10 times less space in a production center, in a consumption center, excuse me. These are all huge efficiency gains on top of just being able to produce tuna in the first place, something that fish farming still can't do. Current fish production involves dragging fish out of the water into boats, selling it to companies on docks, selling that to national distributors and then to local distributors, and then finally to restaurants and grocery stores. This process, it degrades product quality, it reduces freshness, and adds cost in via middlemen. With a Finless production system, seafood can be produced locally in every geography, reacting directly to demand while reducing middlemen and providing a high quality and affordable product of any species, regardless of native habitat or local environmental conditions. So this means we can even make agnostic species that were previously considered local delicacies. So something that would really only be available in a certain market due to us not being able to farm it and it having very limited quantity in the wild. That can now become a global commodity because of cellular agriculture. And Finless is actively working on a bunch of things like this right now. We actually just convened our Impact Advisory Board in person for the first time. And if you look on our website, you'll find a blog spot about it, a blog post about it. Blogspot's a website, right? You'll find a blog post about it, where basically we worked with these people who are really like at the top of their game in the ocean conservation space, people who've worked in seafood companies, in NGOs, in government, alongside our scientists and our business folks. We've decided on what the next few species will be. So very excited to share that with you once we decide to go public with it. But basically, Finless is expanding broadly, way beyond tuna in the very near future. So cell-cultured seafood is on a cellular level the same thing that is eaten today, and so it contains the same nutritional, safety, and taste profile as wild-caught and farm-raised seafood. This is everything from protein, EFAs, to vitamins and minerals. And we can do all of that without antibiotics. We can do it without mercury, and we can do it without plastic. We've already gotten our cell-cultured bluefin to equivalent levels of omega fatty acids as wild-caught bluefin. So this is like some of the highest concentration of omega acids in any natural food product in the world. And we're actually looking into potentially surpassing these levels to create the highest concentration of omega acids out of any food in the world. In the future, we'll be able to take levels of any nutrition, we think, higher than conventionally produced seafood in a bunch of different metrics. We could even tune the nutrition to be highly individualized so each person can eat exactly what's best for their bodies. Cell culture technology also allows us to vastly reduce waste. Means we can produce only the fish meat people find most desirable without needing to make things like bones, eyes, or other organs that are typically thrown away. When a seafood restaurant is purchasing seafood wholesale, one of the biggest concerns is yield. You know, some fish have very high yields. You'll end up with like 80% of the weight that you're buying ending up as like saleable food product. And some are very low. A lot of that weight is actually in things that are essentially thrown away. Uni is particularly egregious in this case. Like the vast majority of it is shell, spike, things that people don't eat. With cellular agriculture, we are just producing the things that people like. which means that we can have a much better feed conversion ratio than typical animal agriculture. And on top of that, it like reduces confusion in the buying process, and it also reduces carbon emissions because we'd literally be shipping less weight to people. And all of that's on top of actually not having to ship it very far. We're not dragging salmon out of nets in Norway and selling it to the United States. We'd be producing things locally. And so, you know, on top of all that, this seafood would be sustainable, responsible, and extremely traceable. And that's increasingly important to retail buyers and consumers alike. Finless has come a long way since its inception, and we're nearing readiness to go to market. Our first taste test was cell-cultured carp, not pictured, and it was extremely expensive. It was about $300,000 a pound. Y'all have probably heard that number a few times today. It was also entirely unstructured in composition. We're now able to produce bluefin with a structure and texture that approximates animal-based bluefin sashimi at about bluefin restaurant prices. We've recently come down to about $200 a pound of a full cell-cultured product. Within the next year, we aim to improve this immensely as we bring it to market, bringing us below $100 a pound next year and below $30 the year after that. So our intention is to really get competitive with wholesale bluefin tuna prices and really change the way this global industry operates from the inside out. So we're really excited to do that as soon as we can. So now I have an ask for the audience. You know, Finless has just raised a significant amount of money that we'll announce in the next few months. You heard it here first, though. We've begun construction on our pilot facility, and we will be hiring for a lot of different positions. Please follow the link on this slide if you're interested in applying. We're, of course, hiring for many technical roles as usual. You know, we want cellular biologists, molecular biologists, tissue engineers, bioprocess engineers. But since we're moving to market soon, we're also looking for many non-scientific roles. You know, we're currently hiring for a director of marketing. We're going to be looking for a head of social fairly soon, administrative assistants, ops people, policy people, and a lot more. We have a very aggressive hiring plan, and we're looking for real, smart, dedicated, and interested, engaged people to come join our team. You know, check the link if you're interested. In a really, it's a fast-paced, but I would say very kind work environment. I really love our team, and I think that we have a fantastic culture. So if you're interested in that, as well as pushing forward a future for seafood where the ocean thrives, please apply. Give us your resume, whether you see a position that fits you or not. We'd love to hear from you, and we have a general application link as well. So this concludes my fairly brief presentation. My name is Michael Selden. As a reminder, I'm co-founder and CEO of Finless Foods. Thanks so much for listening and for having me here. I hope you all have a great rest of your day.